you. Moving on to the roll.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. For the record, Commissioner Velasco,
Here.
Commissioner Brennan, here. Commissioner Spry,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Here.
and Chairperson Henderson.
Here.
Thank you.
The minutes of the August 11th, 2015 Recreation and Parks Commission have been distributed. Has everybody had a chance to read through those?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Do I have a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I haven't received any general public comment slips. Are there any? Okay. Then we have a special needs network presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Okay, come on up to the podium. Yes.
Like our child with dementia, unable to care for.
Good afternoon. I'm Diana Gard. I'm president of Special Needs Network. We are an organization of families with special needs members, special needs children, and we've been around the Santa Maria area for over 30 years. In a nutshell, our mission is to provide support, education, and programs to our special needs kids and their families. And today we're here because every year for many years we've given out an award called the Jackson Award. That award was named after one of our member families, Nina and Joe Jackson. They years ago donated money to make sure we could recognize every year someone who has done something special or enhanced the lives of our special needs folks. So this year, we're going to be presenting the award here at this meeting. The Jackson Award is supposed to be for someone who goes over and above and beyond what their regular call of duty is, even if they do work in a field of special needs population. And so that's what we're here to do, is to present it to two people who we believe, have done quite a bit for our kids and our families. It gives me great pleasure to announce that we were given it this year to two people, Rudy Gutierrez, and Alex Posada. So it goes without saying that Rudy's enhanced all of our kids' lives because he's been the director of Special Olympics for years. And our kids love Special Olympics. They love the acclaim they get. They love the socialization, the competition. They love everything about it. So that's been wonderful for our kids. But what people don't know is that Rudy is also the go-to guy for for all of the Parks and Recs facilities and equipment that we use for some of our special needs events. He's always been there for us to get what we need. Every year he provides facilities for our Christmas party, our Halloween party, our special needs family picnic. We started hosting a talent show for our special needs kids, so he's been there to help us facilitate all those events. And always with a great big smile on his face. He's been very accommodating and makes it happen, even when we're not sure if it's going to happen. So, and I might mention too that for several years now, Parks and Recs has provided the facilities free of charge for us, so that it helps our budget big time. And we all know that probably Rudy couldn't do that without the okay of his boss, which brings me to our next recipient, Alex. Alex, at being director of Parks and Recs, I don't know if it's required of your job to be part of special needs population events, but he's always there. And he's always at Special Olympics. He participates in the Action Club, which is I'm sure you all know, is a special needs subsidiary of Kiwanis Club, and our kids can help provide service back to the community that gives them service. So he's done quite a bit with our kids in many different venues. Coincidentally, the same person nominated both Alex and Rudy, and I'm going to read a little bit from the nominating letters because, and they will get copies of our nominating letters because it just speaks for what we're all about here. Andrea Shaw was the one that nominated both Rudy and Alex, and what she said about Rudy was, "I want to nominate Rudy Gutierrez for the Jackson Award. He is in charge of Special Olympics. He finds coaches, places to practice, and arranges tournaments. He is fun, and the athletes like him a lot. He keeps things going even when the coordinator leaves and a new one starts." And she says a few more things, and then she says, "I think Rudy should win because he makes life more interesting and fun for people with special needs." Alex has a couple of letters because Andrea nominated him a few years ago also, so we've got a couple, but I'm just going to read a few of the sentences that she wrote. Alex Posada works for the city of Santa Maria. He is the director of Parks and Recreation. Alex helps with the Action Club and is a member of the Kiwanis Club that sponsors the group. He often comes to our dances. He helps put away chairs and tables at the end. He helped us decorate our tree for the Altrusa Club. He is a special friend to people with developmental disabilities. She concludes with, "Alice is nice and friendly. My friends like him. He has good ideas and available to help when we need him. I think he should get the Jackson Award." Which brings me to the last thing I'm going to say about these two gentlemen. One of the things that we as parents want to see for our kids is them being safe and happy in their community and being included in their community. And both of these gentlemen have been very, very instrumental in making that happen for our kids. They are friendly to them at all times. They protrude an attitude of acceptance, of respect, and not only that, but they share that attitude with other people and help the people in our community be very accepting of our kids, that's all we want as parents, and we thank both of them from the bottom of our heart for that. So, without further ado, I've got one here for Alex Posada, and what we have is a plaque we give out every year, and then you've got your two nominating letters, and a little present, and I'm going to read it. The Special Needs Network honors Alex Posada with the Jackson Award for outstanding service and recognizes his dedicated effort, which exemplify enthusiasm, creativity, and perseverance, and celebrates his generous personal spirit, which supports individuals with disabilities and their families. Thank you. And I have one for Ruth. Accepted a set of dollars for Rudy Gutierrez. Congratulations. Thank you very much for all. Thank you for letting us do this here.
Thank you so much for sharing
you.
those kind and heartfelt words and letting us know a little bit more about the organization, but also sharing the many ways that these two individuals have contributed. That was very nice.
We've got a very good
It's a
representation.
great turnout. Fantastic.
Our board members, our kids. It's great.
Lots of smiles. Mr. Sprague.
I was just going to make a comment that, I wholeheartedly second the recognition for both Rudy and Alex. For many, many years, it was my business at VTC. They supported us equally as well. But I also just wanted to bring up that, you know, the work that the Special Needs Network does. I've seen it for 35 years professionally and just done all the stuff that you do in the neighborhood, but now it's taken kind of a personal touch. I've got a grandson who has autism. He was just diagnosed a year ago down in San Diego. And my daughter and her husband were lost. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, until they found a parent group that helped them out. And so I just want to thank you for the work you do.
Commissioner Henderson, if I could have a minute, or Commissioner
Just a
Brennan, do you want to
moment.
go?
I agree with Kirk. I agree with everybody who nominated these people. Everybody sitting out there should have some sort of a nomination for something. But this Recreation and Parks Department, I don't know how long I've been sitting here on and off, has always been a supporter of the developmentally disabled in their programs and stuff. And we are blessed in this community, blessed that we have the people supporting them that we have. And that goes from everybody. Rudy is phenomenal. I mean, the guy's got roller skates on. He never stops moving when he's out there doing this stuff. Alex is the quiet person who just goes along, just opening doors and moving things and getting everything done. But we are very, very fortunate, all of us, to have them. And the Kirks of the world also. Thank you.
Can I say one thing before you
Certainly.
respond? Good. So I just want to say this. I'm kind of the rookie in terms of the observation of what Rec and Parks has done. I don't have the long history that both of my colleagues do, but I want to say this. You mentioned in your comments that you don't know if it's part of their job description or not. That doesn't matter, because from where I sit, I can tell you that it comes from their heart, it's passion, and nobody is telling them to do that. That's coming from within. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pratt. And every time I have the opportunity to say thank you to the athletes that we have and the participants, because not everyone participates in Special Olympics, but everybody gets an opportunity to get involved in some aspect of what the department does for individuals with disabilities. Over the years, the 35 years, Kirk, like you said, we've had the opportunity to see a lot of our individuals grow from being, young children to adults. And through the service that BTC and other organizations in town have done, and we've kind of partnered with them to make sure that there's at least some service available. We certainly can't say that we've been as inclusive and as participatory as we would like to be. But we try to do as much as possible. And it's really support groups like Kiwanis who set up the Action Club. My wife, Julie, is here, and she's the Action Club chairperson. She's also one of the winners of the Jackson Award in the past, so it's a family thing. But I think it speaks to our commitment to all of our individuals in the community, and especially to our friends who we get to spend Rudy and I and some of the other staff weekends with at Special Olympics events, or seeing everybody get their awards and the enthusiasm at a social event like the dances, where everybody gets dressed up to go to at our events, and the fact that we just had the World Games in Los Angeles, and we had those 7,000 athletes from around the world. So it's not a Santa Maria thing; it is a global movement. So thank you very much. I appreciate the recognition. Rudy, I don't know if you want to say anything, but certainly I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Well, on behalf of the Rec and Parks Department and Special Olympics, I just want to thank you for nominating Alex and I. I guess the best part is being able to be with all the athletes that Alex said, and just working with the special needs population. It's always something new, always something fun every day, which makes that job unique. It's and to be among the many people that have been selected for the nomination, like Julie, I'm sure a lot of other people before us. It's a real honor. So, thank you, and I won't be going far. I've gotten a little promotion, so I won't be doing Special Olympics anymore, but I'll do law enforcement torch run. But like Andrea said, I'll make sure that the next person takes over and does a great job. So thank you again.
Thank you, Rudy.
And thank you you for sharing the presentation with the commission. I think that that's probably one of the most enjoyable things that we can do sitting up here. Makes it very nice. Yes, did you want to say something?
Come on up, Adam.
The proposal at work, I think Adam at Gina's house. Me, mom and dad, my old kid, Bob. Yeah, me, Maria, Jenny, and Larry. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Everybody's welcome to stay. I'm not sure it's going to be as much fun for the rest of the show. So we won't blame you if you want to sneak out. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is. And then they're gone. Right. It was wonderful.
Laura, if I could say,
Sure.
Just not off the record or anything, but just recently they've been meeting together, and see most of those people, parents, are either my age or close to it in that area, and we all have children who are approaching the period of time where there's not a lot of programs that are going to help these folks anymore, and there's a great concern for it. And I believe Recreation Parks sent somebody to the last meeting that they had, if that's right, and because Rec and Parks is always gearing up for what's going to happen, because what happens to a young person, and they're not young because they could be in their early 50s, who can no longer work in a job site, because of dementia or some other things that hit them. But again, Recreation Parks has already got their foot in the door, looking for programs or whatever for these folks that are not falling in the cracks. That's a big wad of folks at the end of the aging process.
Definitely.
I wish they'd take better care of some of us others who are aging. And
There's a plan for you, Henry. So moving on to new business, we have a review of the downtown specific plans elements that may impact recreation and parks. Is that from you, Alex?
Yes. I'm sorry. Did you all get a copy of the outline?
No.
No.
It's not in my packet either, so I'm assuming there's not one there. Let me, because it is informational, let me just hit some of the highlights. There was a joint meeting of the Planning Commission and City Council a few weeks back in the over in the Shepherd Hall, and what we talked about there was to hearing presentations from the Planning Department about their remake of the Downtown Specific Plan. Several years ago, the Downtown Specific Plan was undertaken. It created the districts downtown, the Loft District and Carriage District and some of the other areas, with the idea that there'd be a plan to create the orderly development of the downtown. I'm kind of glad Lori is here because she's institutional knowledge, so feel free to jump in. The idea of the plan was, again, to create this roadmap for development in the downtown. What ended up happening as it was adopted by the council and implemented, there were some hiccups along the way with some of the existing downtown projects, some of the things that were, for lack of a better term, grandfathered in, non-conforming uses they call them. And as individuals, businesses who were part of these kind of programs, they found it very difficult to work within the framework of the existing downtown specific plan. So the council asked staff or the planning department to go back and kind of look at the downtown specific plan and see if there weren't ways to address some of the concerns they were hearing from the public and from the development community about how the downtown would evolve over the years. So at this meeting, there was a presentation made by the planners that talked a little bit about the proposed changes that they had. During the process of that presentation, there were really no details discussed. It was really more of the generic concepts. The things I want to talk about are more of the details that have been discussed in the staff discussions about where the plan might go. And one of the things that I don't think anybody has any opposition to is beautification of the downtown, and specifically trying to make the downtown more pedestrian friendly, trying to create public spaces in the downtown where events and activities could happen and draw more people to the downtown. Teresa attended a couple of meetings, as has Jim, on the downtown to talk about what types of things could happen in the downtown. The mechanics of how that would work was something that we're working on. Who would be responsible for organizing events in the downtown? What kind of a permit process would there be for events and activities in the downtown? What venues would be used for events and activities in the downtown? Part of the challenge of that, which is really the big challenge, is, okay, who would pay for events in the downtown? Where would that come from? Who would fund the extra staff for a weekend event? How would departments, absorb that? So that's the details that have yet to be worked out as far as the event side of it goes. The other side is the beautification side. Many of you have had the opportunity to walk down Broadway or walk down Main Street, and certainly, we're not a very pedestrian-friendly community when it comes to some of the areas, especially in the heart of downtown, the Broadway and Main Streets. Also, those two roadways are state routes, so Caltrans has a lot of input in how they're used and how they're maintained, and what kinds of things can happen on them. The planners are working closely with Caltrans, trying to create a plan that they would be amenable to, and then rolling out a landscaping plan. Jim participated in a couple of discussions about street trees. Maybe not so much with the newer commissioners, but the older commissioners will remember a lot of street tree problems, a lot of uprooting of the sidewalk, a lot of curb and gutter issues, not only in the downtown but all over. So one of our concerns was a proposal to come back with a tree planting plan that would actually put trees back in the public sidewalks. We have kind of over the years had an internal policy in the department that when new development happens on any of the major roadways, that we would actually try to move the street trees from the sidewalk area back onto private property along the frontage. Typically, the planning people would be asking a developer to put some kind of landscaping between the sidewalk and their parking lot. And a good example of that is the development on East Main Street, the Olivera project there, where we did work with them to remove the street trees from the sidewalk and move them into their area of landscaping, which solved two problems. Number one is it prevented the uprooting of the sidewalk in future years, and it also removed the city's responsibility to maintain those trees, which is another big expense that the city has over time. So there's going to be some discussion about the placement of trees and where they would go. I would actually like to ask members of the Capital Committee of the Commission to participate in those discussions when they happen, and we'll let you know when those happen. The Planning Commission gets the opportunity to review these things and comment on them, and they have the ability within their authority to make certain recommendations on the council. This commission doesn't get that opportunity to review so specifically things like the specific plan, which in time will affect the department, either through the need for ongoing maintenance or even just the capital construction projects. One of the proposals that's a bit controversial that we've talked about before, at least a couple of commissioners and I have, has been a suggestion that Perlman Park would be moved, and that corner, being a valuable parcel as it is, that it would be something that would be maybe opened up to development. There's been no specific plan, so I'm not really sure how to react to that yet, other than initially I would say you know, we realize and it's an expensive corner and it's you know, probably a great target for some development. What's the trade-off? What does the city get back as far as the park system goes? It's a small site, maybe a couple of acres. I'm not sure exactly at least on the corner. There's more of the park that kind of meanders its way through the housing development there. But that's something that came up at the meeting. 2 of the corners are controlled by the city, the one that the park is on and the one across the street near the Bank of America. The other corner is the former gas station, now stereo store, and then the former bank, now boot barn, on the other corner. And certainly that's the crossroads of the community, and the idea of developing those into more usable, functional, attractive features, are certainly something I can agree with. It's just, how that ends up happening. But I did want to make you aware that is something that has come up in the discussions. As far as a trade-off for that, we haven't really gotten to that point. We've talked about a few things. The other major area of contention or discussion is probably a better way, it's not a contention issue, is that across the bridge from Macy's, as you cross over Broadway, the city has a pad for, I believe it's the 5th major department store, 4th major, one of those, next to Fallis, where the farmer's market is now. And that site is owned by the city. And I believe it's probably more appropriate to say it's owned by the successor agency still, because the redevelopment agency has gone away and there's this other interim structure there. And that is one of the venues that they're looking at maybe doing some expansion of public events in that parking lot area. And the planning department is working now with, who are they working with, Jim? Sorry?
Ed Kukarian, promoter.
Oh, yes. So El Dorado Broadcasting, I believe, Mr. Kukarian is. Emerald Wave Broadcasting. They're working with them to organize some events in Town Center West, and to have those events happen on a regular basis. And again, it's something that we don't have a problem with that as far as being the department goes, and I never have a problem if somebody else wants to do the work when it comes to organizing one of those things. But the level of support, logistics that it would take, would really end up being a burden for us. And that's something that I don't think has been explored well enough. Jim will be attending a meeting tomorrow to talk a little bit about how those kinds of events and activities would impact us. And the other side of it, on Teresa's side, is we already have our calendar of special events planned for the next year. And this is kind of getting inserted into that calendar, or trying to be. And that's one of the problems that we're going to have is are there events that we don't do that we've traditionally done so that we can accommodate, new activities and events over at Town Center West. We've always tried to focus bringing activities downtown, not specifically to Town Center West, the Autumn Arts Grapes and Grain Festivals on the McClellan corridor. We worked with the mall when we did the ice skating rink, in the former Yacht Shocks parking lot there. We've worked with Town Center West on some events over on their side during the Elks Parade and runs and things like that we've done. So I think we have a long history of trying to do events in the downtown area. So again, I'm just letting you know that this is something new that's coming up. It's developing. It may impact us. We're not sure how yet. We've talked about maybe in the summer moving one of our summer concerts to the Town Center West area. The way that we look at that, though, is that if you got a chance to have a concert at Rotary Centennial Park on the nice grassy area, or Prescott Park, go in the rolling hills out there, or you come to the parking lot at Town Center West, what's the attractiveness of that? And it's been a difficult sell for me right now. I'm still trying to figure out how all these things would work. I expect that we'll be bringing back to the commission some updates on the specific plan, especially if the capital committee starts coming to the meetings or gets some representation at the meetings. I think that would be a good thing. And Jim will be working on those.
Okay. I have 3 questions just to help me
Yes.
filter this the right way. So backing up to the park that's owned by the city downtown, are there any restrictions with that park that are placed in terms of the transaction originally?
I'm not aware of any. That was, again, one of the downtown redevelopment plans, so I'm not sure how that worked. I asked Dennis today to look and to see which properties are covered under federal law, and it's Adam and the Riverbed properties. And those were purchased with federal dollars, so there's a statute
Right.
in government code that doesn't allow us to change its use.
Okay.
But other than that, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And the second question I had, I didn't follow exactly, you used a pronoun they, of who's planning these events? Where's the dialogue happening?
Right now, Peter Gilly, the principal planner, is that planning division manager? It's his shop, and Netta Zier is the planner that's
Okay,
working
so
on
it's
those.
the city planning department with potentially Emerald Wave Media?
Yes.
Okay. And then tell me if I'm interpreting what you said wrong. Our concern is, does that come back to the Rec and Parks budget, or does it compete with the other events we're deciding?
More so the budget. I don't think
The budget.
we don't have an issue with
Okay.
the competition. That's fine. You know,
Okay.
I think it's a whole different
Okay.
approach that they want to use.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Velasco and then
Oh, no.
Brennan.
Maybe I'm getting ahead, and maybe that's why Jim's going tomorrow to the meeting, but if the support for staff and setting up, which is probably going to land on the department, if it doesn't come from us, where else could it come from?
Our position would be is that if there's a promoter involved, that the promoter would be responsible for those kinds of things and build it into their cost of doing business for running an event like that. That would be my suggestion. Or that if we are asked to do it, that we be able to recoup some of that cost via the event. Where they're paying us to have staff on to deliver the stage and set it up and do all those kinds of things that could be required of that.
So contracting us, the department, to do labor.
Yes.
Commissioner Brennan?
All done, Eliana?
Yes, thank you.
I've attended, I think, 1, maybe 2 of those meetings, and this is my perception just for you. The last one I attended, I thought, was one of the biggest love affairs I had seen of the city and Caltrans and all the rest, and realistic or not, everybody was very happy and holding hands. But there is a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about getting this stuff done, and I really enjoyed the discussion about, do you redo the businesses and upgrade the businesses, or do you get people downtown so there's a reason for them to want to do that? Because see, all this land in here is privately owned, most of it, all the businesses are privately owned. And so to have any incentive for them to put a nickel into that thing, because they're getting the rent now, what's the big fuss? There's going to have to be people that are going to come into the shops so then they can charge a rent that goes with their return on the money. And I think that's a real interesting thing that goes on. We also have Caltrans to contend with on 2 different highways that come into our city here. The overall cost of everything, I think, is going to be very difficult, because I don't know if it came up, but I'm just picturing this. Where do you get the money from? Well, you get it from developers, but if there's no developers here, do you charge a developer for developing the south end of town, use that tax money to do the downtown area? And I think there's going to be an awful lot of work. That's a terrible way to say that. There's going to be a lot of work and cooperation and getting along with each other to get this thing going. And I personally, it's just going to take lots of money. And so I don't know how that all is going to happen. And you talk about falling back on the Rec and Parks. We know that that's going to fall back on them, because their responsibility will be more and more to bring people into the downtown area. And now once they're here, will they shop? Because we hear this and hear this. Our downtown used to have 3 to 4 good men's shops, women's shops, shoe shops, Hallmark stores and all the rest. They're all gone. And people complain about it. And I said, well, did you shop here when they were here? Well, you got to make a point to go shop if you want people to come into that area. So I really was impressed with everything about the meeting and the what would you call it? The desire to work together to get this thing done. But it's like the kind of the smiling joke in there about the new and improved Caltrans. Well, it should be just a go then to get everything done. But there's a lot of work that's going to have to get done somehow. And you all know about Caltrans and 135. Caltrans owns. They're responsible. They would love the city to have them, but they want the city also to take over the maintenance on them, which will be a very difficult thing for the city to do. And so they have. I won't talk about the planning department, but there's a lot of things that really have to be sniffed out.
Commissioner Spry?
Just one question. You know, the downtown civic plan's it was started many, many years ago. And, you know, it included shutting down McClellan Street and turning that into pedestrian. Is this just a resurrection of that plan, or is it instead of?
I think it's a remake, a makeover of the plan. I think there's some very good elements to that. They have kept, I believe they've kept the district concept, but things like, I think they've dealt with the mixed use requirements. Yeah. Those kinds of things have been addressed. These non-conforming uses, like the 2 big car washes in downtown, they've kind of tried to address some of those uses and other non-conforming uses to try to make it easier for those individuals to either update their facilities or change them. So I think in the long haul, it's something that needed to happen. It certainly, I think the word they tried to say is that there's more guidelines now as opposed to policy and regulation, and I believe that that's kind of the spirit in which it was rewritten.
Well, it's certainly going to take a joint effort. It can't just fall back on the Recreation Parks Department, because events and activities like that alone aren't going to bring people back to the downtown. There's going to have to be shopping. There's going to have to be, it goes beyond just the recreation and park aspect of this one. So I hope they're all in this financially.
And the idea of what do they call it when you got people living on top and businesses underneath?
Mixed use.
Mixed use. That was just said. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. But that's from novels I've read of big cities where you live over a bakery or live over a leather shop and how wonderful it is. But just 2 examples just within our own, I've heard criticism of it, and it does not bring in more business. It's just a business that's there, and the people who live there might run in and get something. But there wasn't a big positive on that, although the concept just sounds so neat, but then I don't have any money in it, so.
I had just one question about Perlman Park, and that's more just for my information. Was there somebody specific or a group specifically that was looking to change the?
Yeah, it was one of the discussion elements of that intersection, mm-hmm. and the fact that the city is basically in control of 2 corners there, 2 prime lots.
Okay.
And there was no specific discussion there. I have heard at council meetings, it come up a couple of times from one of the council members talk a little bit about that.
Is that something that would come to our commission, or is that just city council?
I'm sure it would. In order to, the one time that we ended up changing parkland, and it was really a land swap, was on the trying to draw a blank now, the Liberty School site over in Westgate. We did do a land swap that had to come to the commission and had to go to the council.
Okay.
So it was something that had to go through the process.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have on that item.
Very good. We're actually going to go ahead and move on to old business, and we're going to get the update first from Mr. Posada. Oh, would you, oh, sure. Okay.
Hi, my name is Lori Tamura, and with Urban Planning Concepts, and have had the opportunity to work with the Downtown Specific Plans during its first iteration. And a couple of points I'd like to bring up, which we have done at the Planning Commission and at the City Council. The downtown specific plan is about 65% government-owned land between Caltrans with Main and Broadway, the DMV with the state, the county with all the courthouse and the facilities there, as well as the city of Santa Maria. And a lot of the ideas of coming forward with the specific plan need to take into consideration that the government is just as much a partnership in trying to upgrade the downtown as is the owners of the different businesses or the actual landowners of these buildings. And so unfortunately what happened with the downtown specific plan is it literally was adopted at the beginning of the recession. And so you had a gap of about 7 years where I think there was an opportunity for several projects to move forward. They just couldn't get financing. Ironically, two of the big projects that came forward was the library and the transit center, government projects. And you had the theater finally was able to move forward. And so you had an interesting almost reflection of the government versus private infrastructure being brought into the city for the downtown specific plan. What Alex did present to you is the document's about 2 inches thick. The new version's about 3/4 of an inch thick. And what they did is eliminate it, and just, they did eliminate a lot of the document. There was very many policies, direction, illustrations that were deemed superfluous and were probably not appropriate for a more realistic downtown specific plan. The good thing is that it did simplify a lot of the process, and so there is some hope that people will latch onto it and start thinking about doing improvements in the downtown specific plan area. There is a plan that we're hoping will be incorporated in the document for the frontage of Broadway between Main and Cook. It does include courtyards, it does include a atrium area, a place where people can do like a farmer's market, a more permanent structure that could be used for wine tasting one night, beer tasting the next, and then still have the farmer's market feature. So you don't have to keep doing tear downs all the time. And that plan was proposed by the developer of the Town Center West project, and we're hoping that it will be something where it becomes a city-private developer partnership. But what comes first, as noted in many of the presentations from the Chamber of Commerce at the last meeting, is it people first and then the upgrades, or is it the upgrades and then people will come? Well, we know that there's been a lot of mistakes made in the past where somebody puts something palatial in and nobody comes. So you kind of have to do this, who steps forward first to do something. I think that there are opportunities to do some events in the Town Center West parking lot that could encourage activities, whether it's a band or whether it's some other wine tasting event or whatever you want to do. I think that there's opportunities that could happen either by a business taking the lead or by the city taking the lead. But somebody needs to step forward first. I really was amazed at how many people spoke at the workshop with the City Council and the Planning Commission that were young family adults. They were saying, we left Santa Maria, we grew up Santa Maria, we left, and we came back, and we want to stay here. But we're kind of that middle person where there really isn't a whole lot of stuff to do in Santa Maria, so they go to San Luis, or they go to Pismo, or they go down to Santa Barbara, and they want to stay here, they want activities here. So you kind of think about what kind of bands would, young kids play. You kind of have to be thinking outside the box to keep people here, and I hope that that will be an important element here as we move into revitalizing the downtown. But the bottom line is, it's a financial decision, both by the city and by whoever's going to make this investment. And the fees in the city of Santa Maria are high. And the policy that we will be advocating to the city council is a substantial reduction for developments in the downtown area. There's no other way of putting it. There's no reason to go into the downtown if development is happening along 101 and they get all that traffic over there. Why would we put a huge investment into the downtown area and pay the same fees as along the freeway? There has to be a financial incentive to encourage people to invest in the downtown. And right now there isn't. That's the bottom line. And so you'll be hearing about this as we go to the Planning Commission and the City Council, that we need to have fee considerations for development in the downtown area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to old business. Alex, I believe you have an update on the 1600 process.
Yes, excuse me. So, just kind of an update telling you where we are. There was a meeting held with the development community, public works staff, ourselves, again at Shepherd Hall, to discuss the moving forward on the AB 1600 fee process. From the Rec and Parks perspective, what was presented at that meeting was that we would be looking at proposing to the council that we would go back to collecting the 3 fees that are all enrolled in AB 1600 right now, which is the growth mitigation fee, which is AB 1600, the residential development tax, or as it's referred to, the Quimby fee, which is a state fee. Well, it's a state law established fee, and then residential development tax, that's a municipal tax. Those 3 fees back in a long time ago, they were enrolled into the, to be collected as one fee, and to make it basically easier for the developers to pay their fees when it came time for fees. What we discovered along this process of AB 1600 was the desire for development to be looking at some credit for development based on discussions that we had had in the past. So as we tried to look at that, one of the areas of discussion was, do we want to go into AB 1600 and make a big ordinance change that would create this credit policy, or is there a way to try to offer credit through another system? And so the way that it's set up now, or the way that it's proposed to be, is that AB 1600, the mitigation fees would be collected as one fee. The residential development tax, or the residential development tax would be collected as one fee. And then the Quimby fee would be collected as a separate fee. So you'd have these 3 fees. Under the terms of the Quimby fees in the municipal code, it's called the subdivision in lieu fee. I'm sorry, that is the correct name for it. And it already has a credit system built into it. So the proposal that staff will be making to the council is that we go back to the original way we were collecting fees several years ago, and that we identify that there is a credit system already set up in Quimby, and that we use that credit system from here on out to, when the project moves forward, that system would be the one we would use. And to go back to the original credit memo that Lori and I have talked about to you before, in that a lot of that information, a lot of the numbers came from what we had in the Quimby fee at that time. We just thought it was just, if we're going to move some, let's use something that we're used to working with already. That never happened. We never got it codified. We never moved forward with it. So, what we found out at the meetings that we had with the developers is that there's still confusion when it comes to a park project. Excuse me. There was a lot of discussion about why should a developer pay 100% of some of the projects on the list. So, I don't know what's up with my throat today. So what we tried to do was to go back and look at that list, and we revised the list. Public Works staff worked on revising the list, so there's a revised project list. We also, in that list, we put in columns to denote percentages, with the goal being, with the fees identified in the growth mitigation fee, that about 30 to 40% of a project on the growth mitigation fee list would be the responsibility of a developer. The other portions would be the responsibility of what we just called others, which could be either the city's general fund, grants, other funding sources that come in. So it did a better job identifying the breakdown. And that was one of the goals we wanted to make clearer to the development community, was that here's the breakdown for that fee. The issue, I think, that we end up happening is when we have these other two fees, the Quimby and the residential development tax, is that those fees were in existence long before AB 1600. They were always collected, and the idea was that the development community would put money into a pool that would then be used to build a project to serve basically the community in which it was collected from. So you would have a developer, develop the Westgate Ranch, and those monies that were collected, that's a two-reason project. Let's go back to way back and go back to like a Rice Park or a Tunnel Park. When those fees were collected, they went into a pot, and then that money was used to build the park in that particular development. So the developer did have 100% responsibility for the development of that particular site, serving their particular residents, generating the need by their residents. So our proposal is that we're going to go back to that kind of basic system where we would have the three fees. The cleanup stuff we need to do is to work on timing. One of the confusion points is each of those fees was collected at a different time in the development process. We want to clean that up to where they're basically collected at occupancy, which typically means that the home's already been sold, and so or the developer's ready to sell it. So one of the fees was due at permit issuance. So you had to pay a fee up front even before you started building your house. So we're going to make some suggested changes to those ordinances. We think that it's a fair approach to get us over the hump that we seem to find ourselves in right now. The council, I believe the council direction is going to be to continue to do the 2-year updates. It would give us some time to refine again the process along the way. Everything is in books. We basically just do a calculation on the fees. We come up with what the fees are going to be. We bring them to the council on an annual basis. The residential development tax and the Quimby fees all go to the council in January of each year. So our proposal would be that this year is that the AB 1600 fees move forward on the timing line that they're on right now, and that we would come back to the council, commission first, and then the council in the December-January timeframe with the updates to the other fees and kind of give an idea. Public Works gave a kind of a little bit of a breakdown where the fees would go, what the numbers were. And I'm sorry I don't bring that for you, but I can provide that so you can take a look at their example. That's still open to some discussion. There are going to be a few things on there that need to be tweaked, and we'll do that during the maintenance program in January. That's kind of the update. I don't know if you want to ask for questions now, or if you want to go to commission discussion first, or you want public comment first.
I think maybe we should do questions up here, and then we'll close it with public comment.
I just have a couple. Most of the focus I see on the concern about costs, and it might be my perception, it might be completely off, deal with recreation and parks. Do all the other departments in the city structure, do people go to them and say, we want lower this, lower that?
Yes, I mean, I think it depends on what's happening in the process, but there is, yes, there's a way for them to come in and work on credit issues and things for their particular mitigation fee, you know, for some of them anyway, traffic, those kinds of things. The hard set fees like library or something like that are a little more fixed.
Well, like the roundabouts, that was actually a city, what do you call it? Their contribution to cutting down costs to the developers because they didn't have to put in all the streetlights. Wasn't that a?
That was an argument that was made, is that the roundabouts were cheaper. They ate up more land, but in the long run they were, you know, cheaper instead of putting in a traffic light. And there was some discussion about the fact that you don't have any of the T-bone kind of collisions. You know, you have more of a softer collision if you were to have one. Yes, but those were, you know, points brought out then.
But whether they save money or not, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know that they really do.
Okay. But they
again,
had some other side benefits, the accidents. And
yes.
Now on the Quimby stuff, and this is just me asking a question. Back in the day, like I said with Rice and Tunnel and those schools, when the money came in, it went to that park. Okay, and the park's done. Now the fees are gone, correct?
No, they're just collected differently. So they're collected under AB 1600 now. So we collect the same fees, and in the back office, those fees are then divided into those pots. So those pots still exist: the residential development tax, Quimby, or subdivision in lieu, as it's called in the budget, and then AB 1600. Those exist. So they're still there.
So that's for the maintenance of the park and all that good stuff that goes on?
No, those are for capital improvements, usually construction. Maintenance will usually come out of the general fund or a landscape district.
Okay. So then like Oakley Park, though, there was no fund. You folks went out and found a grant and did some other things to get Oakley Park done.
Correct.
So there wasn't a fund pot, supposedly, for whoever
You'll
developed it.
find Oakley Park on the project list because that park is intended to serve the whole northwest quadrant of the city, or the section of the city. So you'll find it on the project list at a percentage of costs. Even though it was developed in the 60s and the original money was there, the new development that happened on the north end of town, part of that money was earmarked for Oakley project.
That's what I was going to, so now if I develop property, we'll say, it doesn't matter where, and so I pay all my fees, I'm not guaranteed that every dollar is going to be spent in the circle of my development. That money can be used in other recreation park needs in the city?
The way it was set originally, it's anything on the list, on the AB 1600 list, the AB 1600 fees could be used for. In the Quimby, state law was pretty specific that it had to be spent within the development in which it was collected. However, the legislature a couple of months ago basically took that requirement away, and that as long as it's spent within the city limits or the organizational limit, then that was fine. But we've not done that anywhere yet. It hasn't come up. And I will say that, you ask about Oakley, probably 90% of Oakley is going to be CDBG and California Housing Agency funded. So monies that are, that's one of the things on the AB 1600 list that, we would look at modifying that project, because it'll be on the other column, that I mentioned as being funded there.
Thank you.
I just have some general questions or clarification. The meeting, when was that, Alex? I mean, you don't have to give me the date, but the general month.
Last month.
Last month, so
Yes.
August. Okay. And then, was it well attended?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we had a good crowd of people. Unfortunately, I would probably say we probably had a handful of developers and a lot of staff there. But the major players were there.
Okay. And then I just need a nexus between what we saw for all those months on a project list, the percentages and all that, to what Are there documents you can send us to see the metamorphosis of
Yeah,
what we're doing?
Yeah, and basically it just changed in format. Some of the projects, they moved some projects around. We asked for some flexibility in the project list. A little bit of that was addressed in the way it was redone. I can send that out to you so you can take a look at it.
Okay.
I believe it will go to, it's being prepared to go to council. I believe the parting comment at the last meeting from the development community was, we don't need to meet again. Just go ahead and get your final product prepared. So that's what Public Works is working on now.
Okay.
But, I'm sorry, just so I can clarify that, I got the impression people still want to have the meetings, because when you have meetings, then whatever progress is being made is people know what's going on instead of, oh yeah, we work, whatever. That's kind of the impression I was.
I don't know, Lori, if you heard anything different, but I thought I had heard that they wanted to get this moving, and so they wanted to get it to the council, and that there was no need for a follow-up meeting to the discussion we had. There was some, except for park facing. But that'll always be on our discussion list. I'm sorry, I forgot my train of thought, but yes, it was to move on.
Okay. And then I had one more question. Okay, backing up to, and I'm sorry if I didn't follow what you were saying, but you referenced the credit memo again. I assume we're talking about that 2007 memo.
Yes.
And that basically that criteria, while never codified, was predicated on the built-in credit system from Quimby. That's what I heard you say.
Right. We
Did I hear it right?
use a lot of those numbers. I think the definitions, which is one of the things homework-wise we're going to have to do on the Quimby. The definitions were not there. There were that process is a little bit more into prove to me you spent this amount of money on these projects.
Okay, there's a better nexus that can be tracked. Is that what you're saying?
The way it was set up, yes. And
Okay.
then the percentages were about the same. That 70-30, 60-40 kind of a setup.
Okay, and then the only other question I have, just to get it straight, I think the last update you gave us, there had been thought about exchanging the idea of credit for incentive. You're using the term consistently credit this time.
Right. Credit is back. The way that is written in the Quimby is credit. So
Okay.
How do we say that? We ran the incentive idea up the flagpole, and it was not well received, and so hence was this
Okay.
next iteration that brought us to this.
So basically, to wrap that conversation up, there's a uniformity that we're trying to achieve here between language and definition of a credit under
Yes.
that term.
Yes, and also we're trying to not reinvent a credit process.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. We'll take Mr. Tobes first.
My name is Michael Tobes, representing the Tobes Group. And first I'd like to congratulate Alex on his award today. It was very nice, and I'm sure it was very well deserved. I didn't speak on item 5, but I was at that meeting, the community meeting, and I don't think I've ever been at a meeting where there's been such enthusiasm about the downtown specific plan. From a developer's point of view, I think the only thing which is disappointing in the plan so far is while there is a great deal of discussion about incentives and reduction in fees and deferral of fees, there's nothing specific in the plan. And from a developer's point of view, I think the city should try at some point to quantify exactly what the incentives are going to be, and if they're going to be deferrals, what will those deferrals be? Because right now they're just they're nice ideas, but they don't translate into anything specific. So I hope both with respect to this specific plan and to other things that are involved in particularly in the downtown area. Someone from the Chamber of Commerce said what you need downtown is more people. And I think that's really true. I don't think that whatever you do in the downtown area, people from Orchid will necessarily drive into Santa Maria for that. But I think if more people are living downtown, I think that's really what will encourage more development, more activity in the downtown area. So I think anything you can do that encourages that would be very helpful. I know that you do not have another meeting before the City Council meeting considers park fees next month. At least I understand that's the situation. So I brought some material that I just wanted to spend 2 or 3 minutes on. I've got 10 copies here, and you can pass that out. I'd also like to report that we finished our last building at Siena and about 2 weeks ago, and we are close to 90% occupied at Siena at this point, which is quite remarkable. I think a substantial part of that is because of the amenities we have provided in that project. So what I wanted to share with you, and I will be brief. First, we did a survey of our residents because we wanted to see more we could learn about them. How did they hear about the project? What amenities do they like the most? Have they recommended Siena to their friends? And what about their use in terms of more or less in terms of the public parks? And you can see that about 44% said they would probably use public parks somewhat less, which is the whole idea of providing incentives to reduce the load on the public park system. Many people will use them as much, a few may even use them more, but there's still an incentive for people, I think, to stay in the project. You can see the fitness center was #1 in terms of popularity, the pool and spa #2, and then barbecue areas and tot lots and things like that. But they're all things that keep people on the property and reduce the load on the public park system. I think what's most interesting in this report that I'm giving to you is the amenities in multifamily residential. And we took the city's report, which went down to Westgate Courtyard and added Siena and Hancock, and we need more room because we didn't have room to put all the amenities in the same boxes that the other projects have. So clearly, I think we are making a really strong effort to create a very, very friendly community and a place where people will stay and use the facilities as much as they can. The rest of the material is you can really take a look at your leisure, but I could just point out on Siena Apartments on that site plan, there are 2 turf areas and 3 barbecue areas on the project. At Hancock, we have 2 turf areas and there are several barbecue areas, and this is in addition to the other things like a gym, and even at Hancock we have a yoga center there. So we think that the kinds of incentives that we are trying to provide, not only to rent units but to keep people using those facilities, are worthwhile, and I hope that the city will consider giving some credit on park fees for what we're doing to make these places great places to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tobes. Ms. Tamura?
Good evening. Lori Tamura again with Urban Planning Concepts. And I've been working with Michael Tobes for a number of years on projects in the Santa Maria area. And we are very pleased with the work that has been done on the fee program. The staff brought forward a new park project list. Some of the very hefty items was the River Park, which was taken off because it's unlikely that that's ever going to be built. And there are some other items that remain on as community facilities, such as the sports complex, and also an item that was added that was on the fee list last year, or last time it was updated was, well, no, it wasn't. Las Flores Park was added to it. So it might be good for you to get the list to see how things were shuffled and added and taken out, and how the percentages work between different parks that are part of a specific plan area versus overall community recreational amenities. We do agree that with the splitting of the different fees, again, there was the sense that there would be a cohesive process by just having one fee, you know, because developers pay lots of fees. And instead of having 3 listed residential, Quimby, and AB 1600 fees, it had a previous fee program. It was all merged together. The unfortunate thing is that the Quimby fee is the only one that has a credit program tied to it. And that Quimby fee is only $1,550, or I'm sorry, $1,050. So it doesn't really help if the program doesn't include all of the park fees, because applying for a credit for just $1,000 means you get $300 if you go a 70-30 split. Whereas the fee itself could be ranges somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 if you include the AB 1600 fee in the total. I'm sorry if that went too fast, but you know, again, it's a big number. Parks Department has one of the biggest fees associated with development is parks. And we don't deny that the city of Santa Maria does a great program with their park fees. And again, these are capital projects. It's not program. It's completely separate. It's just building the facilities and upgrading the facilities. We want to make sure in this program that's going forward, and we'll make it clear at the City Council on October 9th, that the credit program include all of the fees, not just Quimby, because it needs to be, you know, I hate to say this, but it needs to be an incentive to do something really nice in your project. And as Mr. Tobes indicated, he does a quality project and it should be recognized because it does take pressure off of the city programs. Secondarily, it's a win-win for the city. If Mr. Tobes or any of the developers build a nice complex on their project that's well maintained and they maintain it, the city doesn't have to pay for it in perpetuity because it's maintained by the homeowners association or by the management company for that project. So there is a real good reason to justify some credit in the city of Santa Maria. Timing is very important, and I appreciate that Alex brought it up. Paying at occupancy is a very important part of the financing of a project, and we appreciate that being noted here. Most of the other fees are paid at occupancy, so it's a good thing. It's frustrating to be talking about asking for a credit when the County of Santa Barbara routinely gives a 50% reduction on developer fees for park projects when they put amenities in the property. We just received one this last month for a project in Orchid. The City of Santa Barbara does not even charge park fees. City of Goleta grants routinely credits. So there is a public-private partnership for these multifamily projects to get some recognition for the amenities that they put in the projects. And you know, I do have to say it's been tough coming here almost every meeting and saying the same thing. You've heard it. We do look forward to resolving this issue and bringing forward a clear ordinance that allows for the credit. But right now, you know, we have a bond posted for the fees. They still have not been paid for Sienna or Hancock Park because we're waiting for resolution on the credit program. So we thank you very much for your patience in hearing this again, and we look forward to working with Alex and the Parks and the Rec and Parks Department to have a clear direction on the credit program for all of the park fees. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question for Alex. Okay. I don't know that we're supposed to address the speaker, but just a clarification. The 1,050, is that per unit On what basis is the 1,050 or per project?
That was the estimate that the Public Works put out at the meeting. It's based on a dwelling unit.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if square footage plays into it. Switching, what will end up happening as we separate these things, square footage is how AB 1600 is calculated. Dwelling unit and average household size is how the Quimby is it's established by state law, the process. Residential development tax is established using average household size, the construction cost index at that time, and assessed property values. So.
Okay, and then just to further that question, if the total tax per unit for Quimby, the credit allowance is $10.50, is that split, the percentage split that you can actually apply for? Is that what the defined credit system is?
It's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically, yes, basically. So
Okay.
you have an amount, let's say you're going to provide the parkland, and that fee can be reduced for that kind of credit. Those are already built into the system, and we have that same availability in the residential development tax, but it's such
Okay.
a small number.
Okay, and I think I know that those percentages for credit are part of that definition. They aren't determined by our project list and the percentages.
That's one of the items we need to refine, because there are projects on the AB 1600 list that certainly will end up getting some Quimby money. And so we have to figure out where those are exactly. So that's going to be our next endeavor, will be to identify what projects development has coming online that are truly new development.
Okay.
That's where the Quimby comes in.
So I see it has an impact, but from a developer perspective, they can now calculate if they have X, Y, and Z, what percentage they can request of that 1050. Is that right?
Yes.
This other chart is only playing into where Rec and Parks has to find the cost or what funds they can use to fund that, right?
Right. In Quimby,
Okay.
it explains the up to credit process. Yes.
Okay.
Just further clarification, what you just said, or what Lori said, actually, she used the figure $300, that 1050, is that the maximum credit that can be given?
The way it's written, it would probably be somewhere in that realm. Again, that 1050 was a number that
Yeah, I
Public Works put
understand.
out. I haven't quite figured out where that number came from yet, so we're working on that with them.
Okay.
I met with David Baez today to come up with where that number is. And I think they went back to the fee several years ago. So I think that's where that number came out of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to move on to
Thank you,
item.
Mr. Tobes. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Item number 7, informational reports. If we have a budget update from Ms. Rayburn.
Thank you, and good evening. July 1st marked the first part of the new fiscal year, 2015-16, and so it looks like we are doing well already because we're 3% under budget. Of course, that could change, but knowing the staff and their due diligence, we don't anticipate that. Thank you.
Noteworthy activities, my favorite part. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, it was a busy time, as always. The weather is killing us, and
Yeah.
the drought is not helping us. The section on the redwood trees, is particularly concerning to me. I'm on Jim and his staff all the time to figure out what the heck's going on and what can we do to save them. So they did come up with an action plan, and they're going to start moving forward. There's 110 redwoods right now. I don't know exactly how many, and I don't think they know exactly how many have been deemed that they're going to need to be removed. But they're pretty obvious trees. If you drive down Miller, you can see some that are just completely brown. And Scott still seem to think there might be something green inside of them somewhere, so they're going to see, they're going to do some more analysis of those and see if they can come up with some way to try to reinvigorate them. The issue right now is, we have this hot weather. We don't have our typical fog in the evenings, which a lot of those trees, the conifers, use that fog to regenerate themselves, even though there's no water. I think the fact that we cut water back in a few spots a few years ago, we're kind of seeing the effects of that water reduction, which was a budget-driven issue, not a climate-driven issue. We're hoping that all the indicators are that we're going to have a wetter winter, but we expect it's going to be a long recovery for those particular trees, just a long time before we start seeing those come back.
Are we getting not complaints, but public concern about those redwoods?
I'm sorry?
Public concern about the redwood trees?
No, we're more looking at them as a public safety issue. Those trees are, in most cases, they're pretty good size. To have one fail, which is unlikely, but you could have them fail. We have a responsibility to make a determination and make the removal before we end up having a public incident.
Was it an oak or a redwood on Park?
I'm sorry?
On Morrison.
On Morrison.
No, that was not either. I think it was the one in front of Joe Hagerman's house. A camphor? Yeah, it was huge. Yeah.
And we've been watching those in the area too, because they've been in decline even before the drought. And a lot of the trees in that neighborhood is just the age, those the cycle, and so.
No, these are redwoods. These are the what do they call they're redwoods. Tunnel School has a lot of dead redwoods too, and that's another issue in the park there. And we're not really sure why, because really the parks have been getting water, fairly regularly. It's not up until recently that we started cutting back. So we're not sure. If you notice when you go out hiking in the redwoods and you go through there, you'll see that there's a lot of surface roots on the redwood trees, and they don't have like the tap roots and all that other, they're kind of just spread out. And when a tree fails, it usually brings up a big old piece of the earth with it. That's kind of an indicator of how the root structure works. And that's kind of our fear with some of these trees. If we do get a bad winter, we do get storms, we should be prepared. We should be removing some of these trees now. I hate to remove them until we absolutely know, but we may have to be doing that.
Yikes. We're
Notable
on
events.
noteworthy activities.
I'm assuming it's going to rain again. It probably will. We'll get back to some semblance of average, I would hope. Do you foresee some increased costs of just renovating some of the areas that you've kind of not really abandoned, but had to decrease the maintenance on? Because many times that happens, that trying to bring something back becomes costly.
I think where it'll be is we have lost some plant material and some turf area in some places. We're trying to keep it alive, so there is a lot, but there will be, we're starting to see some effects where we have to do some renovation of areas that we typically have not done. I think the other part of it is once we get the moisture in the ground, keeping the moisture there, so the plant material has that.
So you are planning for that at least?
Yeah, we're looking forward. Looking forward.
Yeah.
Active Aging Week is coming up.
Yes, I'd like to have Recreation Supervisor Cindy Hoskins come up and talk about all the wonderful activities we have for the active aging.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to see you all. It's always a pleasure for me to talk about Active Aging Week. Let me get all my notes here. Jim, would you help me out? Pass this little flyer out. So this year we have an exciting week of activities planned for Active Aging Week, which is September 27th through October 3rd. These nice, very busy but informative posters will be going out. One thing we noticed with Active Aging Week is, most of our marketing is kind of just quick to the point, but we get so many questions about what's going on. Everyone's like, can't you just put it on one form? So we do this for our 50 years and up. They seem to appreciate it. So the week is September 27th through October 3rd, and when you look at the blue flyer that I sent you, you will see that there's really a good variety of programs that we're going to be offering, from a very low-key, like a gentle hike, Tai Chi yoga, although yoga can sometimes be difficult for me, I don't know about others, to some more adventuresome type activities such as a zip lining adventure, which we're going to be doing on the Friday before the culmination of the week, which will be October 3rd at the Autumn Arts Grapes and Grains Festival. So we're pretty excited about the variety of programs that we're going to be offering. And I was really happy to see that our partners came in and got together and worked with us on coming up with a good selection of different programs. You'll notice at the bottom, I don't know if all of you are familiar with who our partners are, but it ranges from Lewis Oasis to the Santa Barbara Foundation to Dignity Health. So, and there's a few more on there. San Luis Sports Therapy, they're really instrumental in helping us out with the fitness type aspects that we're trying to promote to get people active and moving. The goal of this committee, and Kirk, you're familiar, you and Henry, you've attended our meetings, is really to get the public to just start moving and be as active as possible for their level, for where they're at. A lot of people are hesitant, to get involved, excuse me, and to exercise because they think they need to go run 5 miles or, join a gym and get a gym membership. We're just trying to get people active through our community walks, through our dances, through some gentle hikes up at Los Flores Ranch. So there's a lot that you can do to stay active, and that's what this week's all about. We will be having next Tuesday's council meeting, there'll be a proclamation, which will be nice. So we're having one of our committee members accepting that, so I'm excited about that. The other thing that I'm kind of excited about is this is culminating at the Autumn Arts Festival, and we're really going to try to I've tasked my staff with really trying to make a delineated active aging section. All of our partners are going to be present with their booths and different information. We're going to have a flash mob. Shh, don't tell anyone. We're going to have a little flash mob just to try to get some people moving. A lot of neat giveaways. Santa Barbara Foundation put some money our way to get little good health pamphlets and pedometers, and San Luis Physical Therapy is bringing donating exercise bands, just real basic stuff that we hope will get people interested in taking part and then coming to the rest of our programs. So I think it's going to be a good thing. Maybe we'll see some of you stop in amongst your busy days and participate in some of them. And then I know, I'm just going to do a little plug. I wanted to share some other items with you. I'm going to hand out scarecrow decorating contest and cutest little pumpkin. If you guys can help promote this to your friends and family, that would be great. These are just some of the new things we're going to be doing with the Autumn Arts Festival this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've got a recap of summer programs next.
Official flyer.
Oh, no. I know, right? They already are. No. I wish. No.
In the interest of time, I'll move right along. Alex asked for our staff to provide an overview of the summer programs, and once again, we had a great summer. So I thought I would put together, with the help of Barbara Wiley, a PowerPoint that will show you not only information, but pictures of lots of smiling faces. You may recall back in 2013, we kind of revamped our youth programs section. Cindy had a lot to do with that, and now Jason Davey, who was promoted to supervisor, is in charge of that area. So I called it the Continuum of Youth Services. That's the city council name. But for the kids, we knew that wasn't going to be very interesting, so we called it Remix. So, and the goal was not only to offer recreation programs, but to also offer educational programs in that mix, health and wellness programs for all the needs in our community. So here's a picture of day camp out at Grogan Park. Every summer and also during the winter months, we have, although we're not a licensed child care provider, I like to think that we're better than that because we focus on fun. There's no licensing, but they come to a day camp. They have a great time. My kids came to this day camp years ago. I think so did Cindy's, probably Jim's too. So because there was such a need for childcare during the summer, we 2 years ago opened up camp at Grogan Park. And it really helped to serve the north side of the city. And people that commute, a lot of them chose that over Menominee because they could drop their child off and get on the freeway if they went out towards Presker Park. The challenge with the day camp at Grogan Park is we have the beautiful Menominee Community Center that's really large. There's a big park there. There's lots of amenities. There's a big gymnasium. And at Grogan, there is not quite as many resources. So what you're seeing here was something that the Community Action Commission did along with the food bank. They had a band, a children's band. They fed people. It was a celebration of all the food distribution that had happened over the summer. And it was well attended by adults. The parents came, and there was no place to park. And so that was one of our fun days. When we're talking about the Menominee Community Center day camp, they meet 2 days a week at the youth center, which is a great way to market that for their next step up. Jim did that years ago when he had the youth center, and I always like to copy people when they are successful. So they have the ability to go to the youth center, get acclimated with the youth center. They are fed there again every morning. They have a breakfast, and every lunchtime they have lunch. And we're very fortunate now to have a vendor in the cafe at the youth center and also at Hagerman, so that's a nice option for them too. You've heard about this before, but just to paraphrase it, as a parent, I know that if something worked well for my kids when they were younger, I wanted to see what the next thing was that they had to offer. So we took all of our youth serving staff, we put them at the Abel Maldonado Community Youth Center, and these were the core principles that we came up with. So this is a little comparison between 2014 summer and 2015 summer. We had, I questioned the 400%, so I called Barbara Wiley and I asked her to tell me, is that a fabricated number? That 400% increase is the amount of times somebody registered for day camp. So it's still an increase, it was just tweaked in a little different way. In 2014, we had 49 children at Grogan Park Day Camp. In Menominee, we were at capacity again with 195 registrations again at Grogan, summer food program. And one of the things that the staff did is we like to collaborate with other agencies. We called the city of San Luis Obispo, and they had come across a traveling theater company. So we split the costs, which was very economical to our budget as well as theirs. So I thought, how good can it be when you don't have a stage and you're out there in the park and there's really nowhere to hide yourself and come out of the stage? They were amazing. Two very talented gentlemen. They got the kids totally involved. It was a great thing. I was enthralled. Another picture of Grogan Park Day Camp. We have an adult pottery class there. And initially, when we started the day camp at Grogan Park, they were a little concerned about their pottery. Then we tried to talk them in, well, why don't you use your tremendous talents and help us with another amenity to offer these kids? So they actually did pottery classes this year for them. So that was really a nice addition and a nice resurrection of something that at first was a little concerning to them. More pottery classes. There's our daily picnic in the park. This is my favorite part. At both day camp sites, we have a talent show every year. And we have everything from stand-up comedians to hula hoopers to this very great trumpet player. And it's great because when they first start day camp, they're very shy and to themselves, and then this is what happens at the end. They open up and enjoy themselves. Look, here's, I don't know, is he wannabe Buck Owens, I guess. This is another child of ours that we serve through the day camp program. Summer food program again, arts and crafts always. Again, the summer food program. what we do is if people don't finish, the kids don't finish their lunch, we store it away, and when kids get hungry, we bring it out and use it as snacks. Free meals to any child, and along with the Parks Division, we were able to provide the New Love Community Center, Tunnel Park. Here's some more pictures of the food distribution. You can see that it grew from last year. Our collaborative partners were the Food Bank, again, Community Action Commission, No Child Goes Hungry, City of Santa Maria Library, who came and did story time with us, and the Utilities Department provided extra recycling containers and trash cans so that the parks and the sites could still remain pristine. There was a kickoff event with the children's band, which I already discussed. That's very interesting, the numbers. Over 1,600 breakfasts were served just to our day camp program, and 30,109 lunches in our city parks. This is really exciting. This program has been around, I believe, for 28 years, and what they do is they take teens, and it's all free. This is the first time we participated. They take them to the Sequoias, and they teach them ecological programs and how to survive in the wilderness, and they handpick the teens that are at risk but are showing progress and making the right steps. The beauty of this, the girl that was sitting over here in the corner, she attended this, and she was here to talk about her experience, but she had water polo practice. I didn't want her to miss that. So she wrote something up, and we'll send it out to you with the other ancillary items. But the exciting part about this is we love Las Flores Park Ranch, and we're going to have these kids come and duplicate this program at Las Flores Ranch with Rudy. So we're really excited about that. Pardon me? No, I don't think so. Okay, so let's see, where am I? This just outlines some of the projects they did. They built a fence, they rerouted an area that had erosion, and many other projects. And one thing that this department has been good about, it was good about it when I was with this department as a teenager, and it's only gotten better, is the expanded partnerships. We understand we can't be everything to everyone, so we make it a point of partnering with agencies that make us grow and help the community to grow. Play. I think I worked up with Alex on the first one as a secretary, and what a great opportunity. Almost every child that's in day camp has some kind of help from People for Leisure and Youth, and it comes all from that source. We're beginning to work better with the library. At first there was a little hesitancy. What's our role? What's your role? And that's evolving over time. I already talked about the trash and recycling. The Potter's Wheel, that was a real breakthrough to get them to work with us. Nature Corps, discounted admissions that we were able to fund through Play Again, Food Bank. Our collaboration with Thrive is amazing. I serve on the Executive Council, and what happened just a couple of weeks ago, Santa Maria Valley Fighting Back merged with Thrive. So it's less meetings to go to with the same impact. And here's just some fun pictures, and I hope that didn't take too much of your time, but thank you for taking the time to listen to me as well as look at the presentation.
Thank you. It was great. Looked like a lot of fun this summer.
Okay, Ryan, you have a tough show to follow.
Good evening. So, what I want to do is recap our summer program season this past year. We traditionally consider summer months as soon as the kids get out of school. We go by the Santa Maria Bonita and Santa Maria Joint Union High School calendar. So this year started June 13th through August 9th. During that time period, it's a pretty intensive time period at the pool. We have programs starting as early as 5:30 in the morning, running all the way through 9 p.m. A typical day is we'll start with lap swim at 6 o'clock. Then we have swim club. They usually arrive about 6:30. Lessons start at 8:45. Those run till 12:15, followed by rec swim from 12:30 to 3:30. Lessons start once again from 4:15 and run to about 7:45. Then we also have lap swim, one-way water polo. St. Joe's will be in there, and the swim club, and then we'll also have our lessons going at the same time. So the evenings were pretty impacted. So that's a typical day from 5:30 to 9:30 at night, and that's an intense 8-week period of time where we're on the go constantly. We have about 60 aquatic staff, which are our swim instructors, our lifeguards, our clerks who man the front counter, our senior lifeguards. Then we have our facility specialists who help out with scheduling, our maintenance staff who help out with the pools that we oversee. Because in addition to our pool, we also oversee the maintenance and lifeguarding services at the 3 high schools, which would be Rigetti, Santa Maria, and Pioneer, which I listed at the bottom of the first page there. It goes over the size of those 3 pools. And basically we provide, anytime they have a program going on there, we'll provide lifeguards for those services. We do the basic day-to-day maintenance for those facilities, make sure their pools are getting the chemicals they need, their feeders are working, their pumps and heaters are working, things of that nature. The good thing about working with the high school is because our swim lessons have become very impacted at the Paul Nelson Aquatic Center, we now have the option, and we've taken it up with Pioneer, is we offer additional swim lessons at Pioneer Valley High School. So that has taken some of the load off of Paul Nelson Aquatic Center. And then also we offer lap swim and rec swim there as well. Especially in the evenings, we get lap swimmers. They have 3 or 4 lanes, and we have swim club in there. We have one-way water polo. We have St. Joe's, and each group is trying to use 3 or 4 lanes. So now we have the option of letting these individuals go over to Pioneer, and they have a whole pool where they share. They don't have to share lanes, but you have 20 to 30 people in a 35-meter pool versus 20 to 30 people trying to share 3 or 4 lane lines. So that has been a good partnership working with them. And we're allowed to use that facility anytime school is out. So currently we use it during summer break. We have used it occasionally if there has been an issue at our pool. We've moved one-way water polo over there or swim club and things of that nature. But the other thing I listed there was the various programs we offer, recreation swim and lap swim, which I talked about. We offer adaptive swim lessons, adult swim lessons, which in the last 10 years has become very popular. We get quite a few adults now in the evenings who come in and take lessons, and we'll tailor that around the needs of the individual, whether they've never swam before or they're somewhat proficient, depending on what they need and how we can help them. Same with adaptive. Depending on the needs of the individual, we usually have one-on-one lessons with those individuals with a swim instructor, so it's like a private lesson. Then we have our parent and tot, which is 6 months to 3-year-old infants and tots, and then super tot, which is 3 and 4-year-olds, and then we offer swim lessons levels 1 through 6. And all our instructors are Red Cross certified, so we go with all the Red Cross certifications for those skill levels. We also started a couple of years ago with Pioneer Valley High School. We were able to start Saturday swim lessons, which has been big with the families that can't get kids to swim lessons during the day in the summer or in the evenings throughout the year, and that's been very successful. I don't think we've had to cancel any of those classes, and that's been a huge plus, so we can still provide lessons to those individuals who can't make a weekday or evening class. We also offer deep water walking and making waves, which is their 2 exercise classes we offer. What we did this year was we moved the making waves classes. It was traditionally an evening class, and for the first time now we're offering a morning 11 to 12 making waves class right before lap swim, and that has been fairly successful. We have about 8 to 10 students who've been participating in that over the summer, so hopefully that will continue to grow and be successful, as we've had a good start with that one as well. Some of the other aquatic center users, as I mentioned, was Santa Maria Swim Club, One-Way Water Polo, St. Joseph's, Orchid Academy, and this past year we've been working with Allen Hancock. They started a girls swim team last spring, and now they are starting a girls water polo team, and they've started to practice this at the end of this summer, so they'll be using our pool for practices and hopefully for matches as the season progresses. Some of the facts and figures for this past year, we offered 380 swim lessons, actually a little bit more than that during those 8 weeks, so we were on the go constantly. More than 1,500 people participated in those swim lessons, and the good thing is with those swim lessons, because of play and rec grants, we don't turn anybody away who wants to learn to swim. We think it's a very important skill for kids to develop and not be afraid of the water, so we're able to offer grants and financial aid for individuals who want to take swim lessons and become comfortable and lose the fear of the water. Recreation swim during those 8 weeks, we exceeded attendance of 21,000, and that doesn't include the parents who are there on the deck. That doesn't include swim club. That doesn't include St. Joe's. So during the summer, the deck is pretty packed. We also had 2 or 3 days this past summer with the heat where we actually had to stop people from coming in until we had some bodies exit the facility because our max capacity between the pools is somewhere around 800, and we exceeded that number. So the attendance has really taken off, and it's become a destination, a place where people enjoy going and enjoy spending their time at. And I think that obviously the weather has helped, but I think it's done really well with the way we promoted things. And then having Pioneer Valley High School has offered a second location where we could increase our swim lessons, we increase lap swim numbers, recreation swim numbers, and give us a way of taking the load off of our pool, especially with the age of it and things of that nature. So those were the key elements I wanted to hit on for our summer, and we still have lessons going on right now. We still have rec swim going on until the end of this month. Lap swim goes on year-round in addition to the high schools and clubs that use our pool. So did anybody have any questions or comments or questions on the numbers I came up with?
Commissioner Brennan?
Yes.
The schools of Pioneer is that exchange of services, or we're just nice?
Correct. There's an exchange of service with use at, we can use Santa Maria's and Pioneer's, but they also reimburse us for our maintenance time and our lifeguard time. There's an agreement they pay for those staff that participate and help out at those facilities as well.
Just under the category of curious, Pioneer Valley versus Santa Maria High, which is literally across the street. Why choose Pioneer as your overflow versus Santa Maria High?
Well, Pioneer was the first one that was built. And that was the pool that we had the agreement to go with. And in addition, what we're looking at doing is offering programs in another location in the city where Santa Maria, like you said, would be right across the street. So we'd get a lot of the same bodies. Now we can attract a different clientele, some different customers and things of that nature.
Has it worked well at Pioneer?
Yes, Pioneer
It's like you're
is.
expanding there.
Yes, Pioneer has really helped. The numbers have gone up, and the Saturday swim lessons, I think, is the biggest thing we've been able to offer there. But we offer, because we have rec swim Monday through Sunday at our pool from 12:30 to 3:30, we're able to offer swim lessons at Pioneer from 1 to 3. So we basically have swim lessons running from 8:45 until 7:45 at night between the two facilities. So it gives another option.
There and grew it from there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And Santa Maria High School will come into the mix.
At some point. Yeah.
The other thing on Pioneers is that Pioneers pool is actually designed to be an instructional pool, which means it has a stepped entry on one end, so we can get people used to the water. Santa Maria High School is pretty much just the depth. So what's 4 feet, I think, is the beginning depth at Santa Maria, and at Pioneer, I think we started about 2.5. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than Santa Maria's pool for that purpose.
Is this what sounds like a great working agreement? Maybe there are things to work out, but just generally, is this a solution? Because when we looked at the fee schedule, Santa Maria Swim Club was here. Is this a solution for expansion that doesn't require the huge increases for fees?
No, I think when Ryan did his numbers, we included the availability of the other pools.
Oh, really? This is in there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just find it interesting that the size of the pools is 35 meters by 25 yards. It's kind of mixing meters and yards there. It's just rather interesting.
It's CIF rules.
Well, and part of that too, on the 35 meters, especially at Pioneer, was we asked the school district to add length to it so we could do stairs. They were going to do a 25 by 25 yard pool. And so we asked them to create a little more space on the south end so we could do the graduated steps. And, yeah, so.
Thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you. I have a couple of things to cover just real quickly. Before we get to the naming of facilities thing, did you get a copy of the art? One of the things that has been coming on that I will agendize for you for an upcoming meeting is the city of Santa Maria has never taken a stand really to support the arts. One of the things that I gave this article for is to kind of give you some ideas of what's happening in art in public places. The County Arts Commission and the county has, I believe it's a 1% for the arts in their development. So anything they develop as a county project, 1% of that is in the budget is included to provide public art. I think it's time that, you know, we consider doing something like that. It's a tough thing to do, but to give you an example, like the library project was a almost $4 million project. If you give 1% of that to the arts, you know, what kind of public art could we have had in the Lavanino Plaza area or in the library itself? It doesn't necessarily have to be in that venue, but someplace around. Even just supporting the arts. There was a time when we would contribute, I think it was $10,000 to the Santa Barbara Foundation, and they would match that, and then they would provide $20,000 to, I think it was the chamber got that money, and then they would provide the money out to the arts groups. While times are a little bit better right now, I think it's something that we should consider bringing to you, and then something you might want to consider passing on to the council, that maybe they look at a percentage for the arts in public works projects that are out there, because it's a way we can legitimize our support of the arts. You know, we really haven't done anything with the arts. So that's that article. It's food for thought. Take a look at that. See what you think. The county has the Condor. We have the lady and her child out here. The dolphin is part of the Natural History Museum, but that was not an Art in Public Places funded. That was yeah, that's at the Natural History Museum across the street.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The county does the 1%.
The county does the 1%, yes. And these two projects that we mentioned were funded by the Arts Council in the 90s. Yeah, I mean, and that was because Marion Long and a few other members really pushed for it to be in Santa Maria. There was no city money involved in those at all. So. I'm not really sure it was, yes, but they were able to use the Measure A funds to do those kind of enhancements. That was part of Measure A, was to provide nice looking overpasses as opposed to just the concrete things. You know, the city's never really done that. I don't know of any other department that's going to be advocating for it. But I think it's something, you know, if we want to talk about the downtown and we want to talk about, you know, how do you make it an art-friendly area. I've heard the mayor mention that she would like to see some artwork on the bridge. You know, it's kind of that's a difficult venue to deal with, just because of its location and its, you know, but I think there's places we could do an art walk. Mm-hmm. You know, the downtown specific plan doesn't include one at this point in time, but certainly a meandering sidewalk through some public art places. You know, there's a lot of opportunities, but there's no money. So in order to generate some money, you know, 1% to the arts could be something that the council could want to consider.
I like it. I read recently about Lompoc and their crosswalks.
Yes.
that they did, and it was just 4, and I don't know where the funding came from. I'd have to
that
go.
was federal funding.
It was federal
Through
funding, but
their
it
safe
really
routes to school.
involved the community, and it brought people downtown, and they did 4 crosswalks, and they painted them with different themes. I think there was California poppy and Native American. There was a wine and something else. Flowers,
Lots
yeah,
of flowers,
and it's
yes.
right downtown, and so it brought people downtown, but it was a fun
You know,
community.
and you mentioned, you know, the lack of money, or I mentioned that, somebody did. There's always a lack of money, but one of the things that it allows us to do is if we were able to find some other funding source, either through the California Arts Council or the National Endowment for the Arts, if you have money to put up, you know,
Right.
to match or to fund some portion of it, those groups are more likely to look at you seriously for some funding. Right now, Santa Maria has always been, give me some money to do this.
Right.
I think that we've seen our arts community kind of do the wave.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I think they're in a resurgence of trying to get back there and do some things. Craig Schaefer? Yes. Yes.
On Chapel.
The old Frazee
On Chapel?
paint. On Chapel, yeah. Right. That was one of those things that, you know, the Children's Museum just did theirs on Jones. We have the one at Atkinson in the courtyard there that we did with the Hancock College project. There's always opportunities for things like that, and I know that they're talking about planning. Oh, I see. So we'll be bringing something back to you. Dennis is our, not our, but the community's rep on the Arts Commission. So he represents the 5th District. So that's kind of an ancillary duty that he has on his own community participation thing, but we're going to capitalize on that.
I have just on that, I was asked to be interviewed Friday for the Santa Barbara Foundation Creative Community Project, Art Community Project. So if I'll make sure to report back on what
Great.
that is and maybe how we could partner with that.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that.
Naming criteria. We had the request come in from Gene Sparks and Barry Stotts on considering Mr. Urbanski for the naming. So we did some digging. Dennis did some digging. It's great having an analyst position. And what we found was the memo. I think you should have it up there on your podium. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is the current policy. I talked to city manager about this, and this is what they are using, and this is how they would like us to consider it. So based on this, and the recommendation that came that we look at Tom, would be that we would, as staff, develop the nomination materials or have them develop the nomination materials, submit it to staff. We would do the staff work on it. We would send it on to the city manager for consideration. And then Tom would be one of those names added to the list, which is the next question is, where's the list? There was a list, and again, the older commissioners might remember this. The more tenured commissioners might remember this, is that there was a list of names of individuals that we had kind of at the ready should the opportunity present itself to name a park. And so that list is still being looked for. The council does not have a list that anybody can figure. So what this kind of is giving the impetus for is to go ahead and get this a little bit more solidified. And unless I hear anything different from you tonight, we'll move forward with looking into the nomination of Mr. Urbanski and start to prepare the material as it indicates here.
So will be something we done on your list to the council?
Yes. Yeah, we'll bring something to you since it is.
Just a list that can be jumped, erased, or scratched out.
Correct. We would only be putting a name on a list. It would be up to the council or what do you call those, the advocates, to bring it forward beyond that level.
Question? So I have a question. The list. The names on the list, is there a sequence to if a project becomes available? Because my recollection is that the request that we heard during public comment was to attach a specific person to a specific project. Is that an opportunity under these?
No. It is a list that the council would decide. We can make a recommendation, oh, by the way, the park at XYZ location is available. I think that, and not using anything for Mr. Urbanski, but if there was a nexus to a project that involved that individual, maybe they were a spearheader of or something along those lines, that might be something to consider. I asked Teresa to remind me today, but I remembered on my own that we do have some projects coming down the pike that will involve families, longtime residents of the valley who will end up having to make some park dedications. And so one of the things that isn't addressed in here are those individuals who
Be donating land.
yeah, donating land or making it available for public use. You know, there may be some remuneration involved, but you know, their motivation is to be philanthropic to a point. We've done that with the Edwards project up at Sierra Vista. With that project, and so there's some precedent for that.
So it's a possibility that the council, there's the list and then there's the policy. And so there's a possibility that if something came up to name, that the council might consider a number of people for that.
Yeah, the missing component to this is the list that we've developed that says, here's what's available in Rec and Parks for the potential naming. And we are going to revise that list now because that list was pretty old. There are some other facilities that have come online since then, and we've purposely not named any of the newer parks. You have the park at Westgate, you have the park at North Prescott Ranch. We didn't give them names because there was this list. And so if somebody wishes to step forward and advocate for somebody on the list, then that's something that can be done.
Well, so are you proposing that the commission is reinserted into this process again? 'Cause I don't read that in this criteria.
Yeah, if you look down, let's see. Yeah, it says that if it's a Rec and Parks thing, the commission can have some input into that.
Input from it's more than the second sentence. Input from the appointed bodies will be collected by the city manager's office. I think
Yeah,
that
so
includes
basically
that.
that's you guys.
Because this is a city policy for everything, including Rec and Parks facilities.
Right.
Yeah. So it could be Planning Commission, it could be the Library Board, it could be any of those other appointed bodies that we have. All-America City Committee, technically based on the verbiage here, they could make a recommendation.
Okay.
But as far as what a Rec and Parks facility would be, that would come to you all to make.
Okay. I guess that was my question, because ultimately the city council has the
Yes.
decision-making power, and that's
Yes.
kind of what the problem was in the past. Recommendation would get thrown out and a whole new name would come in.
Yes, ultimately, the council, which has been done in the past, they can just move forward with a motion one night at a meeting and say, hey, we want to do this, and at the next meeting, it's on the agenda, and it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
But before any of that, the city manager can truncate.
Yes. And usually if we do a good job with the write-up, his job is to vet that nominee to make sure there's no history somewhere back there that would preclude them from being considered for naming so that it's not an embarrassment somewhere along the process.
It's probably sound advice.
Yeah.
How much did the city buy back from him?
Unless something comes up after they died. Just,
That's it from my end. We had sports fields. What did we want to talk about in sports fields? What was that on there?
Is it an update?
Is it
Maybe just the update that the fact that we're taking the fees to the council October the 15th. I think it is.
October 7th, we will be forwarding to City Council a City Council notes. That's a routine way of introducing something to them that's voluminous or that might be very conversational for the understanding. So October 7th is the date for the council notes, and Ryan and Melissa and I met today to kind of weave our stories together. Hopefully the seams do not split. And then we go to council on October 20th.
Okay, so I'm confused. Is that, what is, I didn't think we had resolution from this commission. We did.
We did.
For which schedule of increases? For the teams is what?
The direction on the team issue was that Ryan was to meet with them, get their input, get some numbers, and come back with a plan. So what we're asking the council to do is we're going to say, hey, here's the numbers we've come up with. And these are the numbers that, are examples of the costs. What do you want to do? Our recommendation is that they consider 3 options, and those 3 options are basically leave it the way that it is and charge these fees and maybe do a time frame, do it over several years. Option number 2 is, no, we want to see some kind of a reduction, and we ask, give us a number. Do you want a 50% reduction? Do you want, what is it? And I believe option number 3,
A reduction in fees or a reduction in costs?
a reduction in the fee that we would charge them, yes. That there would be some, they accept that they're not going to recover the costs, so what's the plan?
I think it was 50 and 30%
Yeah.
Recovery costs.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I remember this.
So that's what we're going to present to them, and we're going to ask for them for the direction. As I might have mentioned to you before, past councils have said youth groups don't pay anything. That was where we got our original direction way back when. So now it's time to kind of update that direction. What do you want? What do you feel would be fair? We know that we're not going to get 100% of the fee, but we want the decision makers to tell us what they want to see.
Okay, so that is, basically you're looking for direction and come back to us. There's no final fee.
We're hoping that they will give us the policy, and then we will take that percentage, whatever it is, we'll put it in, and we'll come back and say, these are the fees now.
That's what I remember. And then
Yes.
the other one that I know Cindy brought, we did approve as, not Cindy.
Melissa,
Yes,
yes,
sorry.
the facilities.
I'm looking at you, Melissa.
Yes.
I remember. Okay. thank
So
you.
that one's moving forward. Yes, we would actually, what we said in the proposal is that we would be bringing back a fee proposal. We want to get it enrolled in the annual fee update that the city has. And that will be the way it is. And I think it's CPI driven for the other recommendation.
That's better for us, 'cause every year we don't increase anything.
Yeah.
Then you're in the hole and you never get it back.
Yes, yes.
And
And
the-
we found that out.
The key point for me, I bolded it in the staff report, is we have not done an across-the-board fee increase for 18 years.
Right.
No.
I agree. That's all important. You know how I feel on that. We need to be recovering some cost. I get it. But that said, we've got to make allowances for a horrible recession. So,
Yeah. And we'll let that policymakers tell us what they like it to be, because we'll do whatever they say. I do want to let you know that I'll be going to the Buena Vista Beautifiers meeting on Friday to kind of give them an update as to where the city is on Buena Vista Park. We're moving ahead with the city team met. We had a discussion about it. We've retained our landscape architect, Mr. Miller, to do some conceptual plans. Public Works and I and Jim are meeting tomorrow to kind of go over those concepts. A lot of interesting ideas, you know, and you have the outside person looking in, who also took in the input from the community at our community meeting a year and a half ago or so. And then Thursday last week, I was in Sacramento at a Land and Water Conservation grant meeting, and Cindy and Dennis and I are going to look at applying for some of those funds for the Buena Vista project. We think it meets at least 3 of the criteria that they have.
Great.
Our department, thanks to Dennis and some of his predecessors, have a very good relationship with state parks. They are the managing agency for Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a federal dollar project. If we get that project funded through them, as I mentioned before, that would become the 3rd park under federal protection that couldn't be changed from parkland. It has to remain parkland in perpetuity. So it'd be neat to get some land and water money. They will fund up to $2 million. However, they're a reimbursable project, so we have to front the money and then they'll reimburse us over time. And I think it's a 50% match. I think it's 50%. So if it's a $2 million project, we might be eligible for up to $1 million.
What's the timing of all that, Alex?
All of it has to happen right away. CDBG grants are due in January.
Oh, and that would be your matching source?
Yes.
I see.
And then Land and Water Conservation Fund applications are due February 3rd. So
I'll be at the meeting as well. So, but I would just say this. I think it sounds like a great idea and a way to get a project going that might not otherwise go at all. But I think some of the feedback I've been hearing, let's just be really clear on what kind of jurisdiction we're giving away.
Yeah.
And restrictions, so that the community or the people giving input understand clearly that one person or a community group are not going to be able to change things.
Yes.
That needs, I think, to be restated at every meeting.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Any
Thank you for
other-
all your time.
Yeah.
Are other people, how does Santa Barbara not charge fees and build parks? How does the county build?
Santa Barbara has no developer fees because they have nowhere to develop. So a lot of their projects are funded through the general fund, through other funding sources. A lot of their money comes from their other taxing abilities that they have. I'm drawing a blank. They have a utility users tax. They have a lot of things that we don't have that assist them in projects. That's why they have no developer fees.
Now, how does Oregon pay 50% there?
Because they're in the county.
Well, I know, how do they do that?
Well, it's funny if you read it. I think it was in the newspaper the other day that not only did county parks give up the Rice Ranch Park to the homeowners association there because they cannot maintain it. That's one of the problems you have with a county park system that's just woefully underfunded. They can't keep their head above water, so they've given that park over to the homeowners association to maintain. I think what you're going to see in a while is those homes, once they're all sold, the question is going to be asked, why is this a community park when we're the only ones paying for it? No one else in Orchid who doesn't live in that development. That came up with their project in Vandenberg Village, where they built a Little League field, a soccer field, and a small swimming pool. And it was the county required it and was making it available to the general public, and the homeowners association was just in a tizzy because they were doing that.
That's not really a great comparison saying everybody else is so wonderful.
No, I don't know what Orchid project they're talking about. We'll have to research that a little bit. It's in my notes, so Dennis will be working on that tomorrow to see which project they're talking about and what they're providing. But realize that the county provides no services really, other than maybe Waller Park and Orchid Community Park. That's it for county resources.
I think there are comparisons that need to be apples to apples, but I think the information given to us was fact if you just look at reductions.
Right.
So I would say that. So we need to be making apples to apples comparisons, yeah. Yeah, I think leave room. I think they'll have some different facts than what we think, so somewhere in the middle.
I want to say something. I got an email from Kent Epperson. He helps organize, yeah, I think you both got it, the Santa Barbara Open Streets, and he invited those of us on his listserv to a free shuttle to the October 24th Open Streets in Santa Barbara, and I'll forward it on to you guys if you want, or if Alex, you wouldn't mind. It's a project that I think would be really, really nice in Santa Maria. I went with them about 4 years ago to the Ciclavia in Los Angeles and had a blast. I loved it. It was so much fun. Guadalupe did their kickoff this year. It was very nice. It was small, but it was very nice, and I think it's something that could be fantastic in Santa Maria. So I'm going to try to go. I'm not going to do the shuttle. I'm going to make my own transportation. But Kent's a great contact. He's a pretty good person.
Yeah, please send that, and then we'll look into that, and we'll make sure to involve the planning
Just to
department in
go.
that too.
It's so much fun, and I can imagine Santa Barbara is going to be great, but if you can go down to LA too. And Guadalupe was a kick in the pants too, so. All right, I guess we are adjourned. Thank you.
Taste of Mexico is Friday. We'll see you there. Tickets at our office. This Friday.